The first great confrontation between the Archangel Michael and Satan, as described in the book of Revelation, is one of the most dramatic and symbolically charged passages in the Bible. In Revelation 12 verses 7 to 9, we read about a celestial battle that not only defines the fate of the cosmos, but also offers us a profound understanding of the nature of spiritual warfare. This narrative invites us to explore the magnitude of this confrontation and to reflect on its implications in our lives. The passage begins with an impressive vision. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. Revelation 12 verse 7. This verse places us directly in the heart of the conflict. Heaven, traditionally seen as a place of peace and glory, is transformed into a battlefield. On one side, we have Michael, the archangel, whose very name means, "who is like God." Michael is often described as the leader of the heavenly armies, a fearless warrior and defender of God's people. On the other side, we have the dragon, identified in verse 9 as the great dragon, the ancient serpent called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. This description makes it clear that the adversary is Satan, the principal enemy of God and humanity, whose rebellion and malice threaten the divine order. The battle in heaven is not merely a physical confrontation. It is a spiritual battle with deep meanings. Michael and his angels represent justice, faithfulness, and divine authority. They are committed to defending the holiness of heaven and the order established by God. Michael's victory is described clearly. But they were defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Revelation 12 verses 8 to 9. The expulsion of Satan and his angels from heaven symbolizes the defeat of evil and the reaffirmation of divine authority. This event is filled with symbolism and offers us several spiritual lessons. First, Michael's victory reminds us that good always prevails over evil. Although Satan is powerful and cunning, he cannot defeat God's justice. This message is a source of encouragement for all Christians, reminding us that no matter how great our struggles and temptations, we can trust that divine justice will prevail. Additionally, Michael's role as the leader of the heavenly armies highlights the role of angels in spiritual warfare. In Daniel 12 verse 1, Michael is described as the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people. This verse reinforces the idea that angels are protectors and defenders of God's people. They not only combat the forces of evil, but also intercede for us and help us in our own spiritual battles. This gives us great comfort, knowing that we have celestial allies fighting by our side. The expulsion of Satan from heaven also symbolizes the purification and maintenance of celestial holiness. Heaven is God's realm, a place of absolute purity and holiness. The presence of Satan and his fallen angels in heaven was a threat to the divine order. The battle and their subsequent expulsion reinforce the need to maintain purity and holiness in our own lives. We are called to live in a way that reflects God's holiness, resisting temptations and rejecting evil. This confrontation offers us insight into the nature of power and authority. Michael, despite his strength and high position, does not rely on his own power. Instead, he fights in God's name, recognizing that true authority belongs to the Lord. This recognition of divine sovereignty is an example of humility and faith. In our own lives, we are called to do the same. We must trust in God's authority rather than relying on our own strengths. The battle in heaven also reminds us that spiritual struggle is a constant reality. Just as Michael and his angels faced Satan and his forces, we are also called to fight against temptations and the forces of evil that seek to draw us away from God. In Ephesians 6 verse 12, Paul writes, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." This passage emphasizes that our struggle is not against human enemies, but against spiritual forces of evil. This calls us to always be vigilant and spiritually prepared. Furthermore, Michael's victory over Satan has eschatological implications. Revelation is a book that deals with the end times and God's final victory over evil. The expulsion of Satan from heaven is a precursor to the final defeat of evil and the establishment of God's kingdom. For Christians, this brings an unwavering hope that, in the end, God will triumph over all forces of evil and establish his kingdom of justice and peace. Another important dimension of this event is the issue of free will and moral choice. Satan and his angels chose to rebel against God, and this choice led to their expulsion from heaven. This reminds us that our choices have eternal consequences. We are called to choose faithfulness to God, just as Michael and his angels did. Every decision we make in our daily lives contributes to the larger battle between good and evil. The narrative of the first confrontation between Michael and Satan also challenges us to reflect on our own spiritual lives. How can we, in our daily walk, reflect Michael's courage and faithfulness? How can we resist temptations and remain steadfast in faith, trusting in God's authority? These are important questions that we must consider as we seek to live according to divine principles and teachings. The story of Michael and Satan in Revelation offers us an inspiring vision of the spiritual battle that occurs beyond our visible world. It calls us to live with a constant awareness of this battle, always seeking God's guidance and help. We must remember that, like Michael, we are called to fight with faith and determination, trusting in the final victory of divine justice. Ultimately, the battle in heaven is a powerful testimony to God's victory over evil and the importance of our own faithfulness and dependence on God. It reminds us that, even in the midst of the most intense struggles, we can trust that God is with us, guiding and strengthening us. May we find inspiration in Michael's courage and faith, and may we live our lives with the certainty that, with God by our side, victory is assured. This narrative calls us to reflect on the holiness and purity of our lives, the importance of humility and dependence on God, and the reality of the spiritual battle we all face. In doing so, we are strengthened in our faith and encouraged to live according to divine principles, knowing that God's justice will always prevail. May the story of the first confrontation between Michael and Satan in Revelation be a constant source of inspiration and hope in our spiritual lives. The second confrontation between the Archangel Michael and Satan is a mysterious and profoundly significant event, briefly narrated in the Epistle of Jude. In Jude 1 verse 9 we read, "But Michael the archangel, when he disputed with the devil and argued about the body of Moses, did not dare pronounce against him a railing judgment, but said, 'The Lord rebuke you.'" This verse, although short, opens a window into one of the most enigmatic events of the Scriptures, inviting us to reflect on Michael's role and the nature of divine authority. To fully understand this event, we must first consider the context and significance of Moses. Moses is a central figure in the history of Israel, the great leader who guided the Israelites from slavery in Egypt to freedom in the Promised Land. He is described as the greatest prophet, someone who spoke face to face with God, receiving the tablets of the law on Mount Sinai. His death is recorded in Deuteronomy 34 verses 5 to 6. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth-peor. But no man knows his burial place to this day. This detail about Moses' unknown burial place is intriguing in itself, suggesting a mystery surrounding his body. The dispute between Michael and Satan over the body of Moses adds a layer of depth to this mystery. Why would Satan be interested in the body of Moses? And why would Michael, the archangel, be involved in this dispute? To answer these questions, we need to explore the symbolic and theological significance of this event. Moses, as the great leader and lawgiver of Israel, represents the law and God's covenant with his people. His body, therefore, may symbolize the continuity of this covenant and the divine authority he carried. Satan, the adversary, always seeks to corrupt and subvert God's purposes. By disputing over Moses' body, Satan might be attempting to discredit or destabilize the faith of the Israelites. He could be aiming to use Moses' body to create confusion or idolatry among the people, diverting them from true worship of God. Satan's intention is always to separate people from God, and this event is no exception. Michael, on the other hand, is the defender of God's people, the protector of divine justice. By intervening in the dispute over Moses' body, Michael is fulfilling his role as a guardian, ensuring that the body of the great prophet is treated with the respect and dignity it deserves. Michael's response to Satan is noteworthy. He does not pronounce a curse but simply says, "The Lord rebuke you." This response reveals much about the nature of spiritual authority and humility. Michael, though powerful, acknowledges that true authority belongs to God. He does not exalt himself above Satan, but invokes the Lord's rebuke, demonstrating profound reverence and submission to divine sovereignty. This episode offers us valuable lessons about humility and dependence on God. Even those who are endowed with great heavenly power, like Michael, do not rely on their own strength but on God's authority. This humility is an example for all of us, reminding us that in our spiritual battles, we must trust not in our abilities but in God's grace and power. The dispute over Moses' body also prompts us to reflect on the importance of spiritual legacy. Moses left a lasting legacy through the law and teachings he received from God. The dispute over his body symbolizes the ongoing struggle between good and evil, not just for the present but for the future of faith and fidelity. As heirs of this spiritual legacy, we are called to protect and honor this heritage, remaining faithful to the principles and truths passed down to us. Additionally, this event reminds us of the constant presence of spiritual warfare in our lives. Just as Michael confronted Satan to protect Moses' body, we too face challenges and temptations that seek to draw us away from God. Satan's presence in the dispute over Moses' body warns us of his persistence in trying to lead the faithful astray. However, Michael's intervention is an encouraging reminder that we are not alone in this struggle. God sends his angels to protect and guide us, assuring us that even in our toughest moments, we have divine assistance. The narrative of Michael and Satan disputing over Moses' body, though brief, is rich in meaning and teachings. It calls us to consider the depth of divine authority, the importance of humility, and the reality of spiritual warfare. Reflecting on this event inspires us to strengthen our faith and trust in God's protection and guidance. The story of Moses, culminating in this celestial confrontation, is a powerful reminder of God's commitment to his people and his angels' constant watchfulness over us and our own lives. We can find inspiration in Michael's figure. Just as he defended Moses' body with humility and divine authority, we are called to defend our faith and values with the same determination and reverence. Michael's humility in invoking God's rebuke instead of relying on his own strength is an example of true spiritual dependence. When facing our challenges, we can remember that true strength comes from recognizing our dependence on God and trusting in his authority. Furthermore, this event challenges us to reflect on the legacy we leave for future generations. Just as Moses' body represented the continuity of the covenant and faith, our actions and faith today have a lasting impact. We are called to live in a way that honors and protects this spiritual heritage, ensuring that God's principles and truth are passed down intact and inspiring to those who come after us. The story of Michael and Satan disputing over Moses' body is a story of faith, humility, and the eternal battle between good and evil. It invites us to trust in God's authority, live with integrity, and protect the spiritual legacy entrusted to us. May we find inspiration in this narrative to strengthen our faith and determination, knowing that, like Michael, we are under the protection and guidance of the Almighty. Through this trust and reverence, we can face any challenge, confident that God's justice and truth will always prevail. The confrontations between the Archangel Michael and Satan, as narrated in the Scriptures, offer profound spiritual and theological significance. These two events, the war in heaven described in Revelation and the dispute over Moses' body mentioned in Jude, are filled with parallels and connections that help us understand the ongoing spiritual battle between good and evil. By exploring these stories, we can extract deep lessons that apply both to the biblical context and to our daily lives. The first confrontation, detailed in Revelation 12 verses 7 to 9, depicts Michael leading the heavenly forces against the dragon, identified as Satan, and his angels. This battle is not merely a clash of physical forces, but a manifestation of the spiritual war between divine justice and the rebellion of evil. Michael and his angels' victory over Satan represents the supremacy of divine order and the inevitability of God's justice. Satan's expulsion from heaven symbolizes the defeat of evil and the maintenance of celestial purity. In contrast, the dispute over Moses' body, recounted in Jude 1 verse 9, is a subtler yet equally significant confrontation. Here, Michael faces Satan in a matter of honor and respect for the memory of Moses, the great leader and prophet of Israel. Rather than engaging in a physical battle, Michael invokes divine authority by saying, "The Lord rebuke you." This confrontation highlights Michael's humility and his reliance on God's sovereignty, demonstrating that true spiritual strength lies not in direct confrontation, but in submission to God's will. The parallels between these two confrontations are remarkable. In both cases, Michael represents divine justice and protection, while Satan embodies rebellion and corruption. Michael, as the defender of God's people, is committed to preserving divine order and sanctity. His actions in both events remind us that the spiritual battle is constant and multifaceted, requiring both strength and humility. The connection between the confrontations is deepened by the nature of the adversaries. Satan, the perpetual adversary, is a figure of opposition and challenge to God's authority. In Revelation, he is described as the great dragon, the ancient serpent, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. Revelation 12 verse 9. This description emphasizes Satan's cunning and malice, as well as his capacity to deceive and corrupt. In the dispute over Moses' body, Satan once again attempts to subvert divine order, possibly seeking to use Moses' body to create idolatry or confusion among the people of Israel. Michael's response in both confrontations testifies to his faith and loyalty to God. In Revelation, he leads a direct battle, trusting in God's strength and justice to prevail. In Jude, his approach is different, invoking God's authority with humility and reverence. These two responses reflect the versatility needed in spiritual warfare, where sometimes we are called to fight with all our might and other times to fully trust in divine intervention. These events also teach us about the nature of spiritual authority. Michael, despite his power, recognizes that true authority belongs to God. His humility in invoking the Lord's rebuke instead of relying on his own strength is a valuable lesson for all of us. In our own lives, we face challenges and temptations that might tempt us to rely on our own abilities. However, Michael's story reminds us that true spiritual victory comes from dependence on God and submission to his will. The continuity between Michael and Satan's confrontations reflects the ongoing battle we all face. The war in heaven and the dispute over Moses' body are microcosms of the larger struggle between good and evil that permeates all creation. This battle is not confined to the distant past, but is a present reality in our daily lives. Every decision we make, every temptation we resist, is a participation in this great spiritual battle. Moreover, these confrontations show us that the final victory belongs to God. Satan's expulsion from heaven and the divine rebuke in the dispute over Moses' body are powerful reminders that evil, no matter how persistent and cunning, cannot prevail against God's justice and authority. This truth gives us hope and encouragement in our own struggles, knowing that with God on our side, victory is assured. The confrontations between Michael and Satan also highlight the importance of faith and perseverance. Michael, as the leader of the heavenly hosts, demonstrates unwavering faith in God and a firm determination to defend divine justice. His courage and loyalty are inspiring examples for all of us. In our own battles, we are called to show the same faith and determination, trusting that God will give us the strength and courage to overcome. Another important aspect of these confrontations is the role of angels in spiritual warfare. Michael, as an archangel, exemplifies how angels serve as defenders and protectors of God's people. They not only fight against the forces of evil, but also help and guide us in our spiritual journeys. This angelic presence is a source of great comfort and encouragement, reminding us that we are not alone in our struggles. Ultimately, the confrontations between Michael and Satan are narratives rich in symbolism and spiritual meaning. They teach us about the nature of spiritual warfare, the importance of humility and dependence on God, and the certainty of divine victory. Reflecting on these events, we are called to strengthen our faith, live with courage, and trust in God's protection and guidance. These stories also challenge us to consider how we can apply these lessons in our own lives. How can we be like Michael, showing faith and courage in our daily battles? How can we more fully trust in God's authority and sovereignty, invoking His help and guidance instead of relying on our own strength? These are questions each of us must ponder as we seek to live according to divine principles and the truth of the Scriptures. The parallels and connections between Michael and Satan's confrontations are not just historical or theological, but deeply personal and applicable. They invite us on a journey of faith and dependence on God, reminding us that true spiritual victory comes from aligning with the divine. May we find inspiration in these stories to face our own battles with courage, faith, and unwavering trust in God's justice and authority. Through this journey, we can be assured that, like Michael, we are part of a larger battle that culminates in the eternal victory of good over evil. The confrontations between the Archangel Michael and Satan reveal much about the spiritual battle we all face, highlighting the importance of humility, dependence on God, perseverance, and community. These narratives, though ancient, carry profound and timeless lessons that guide us on our journey of faith. The war in heaven and the dispute over Moses' body show that the struggle between good and evil is real and ongoing. They remind us that even when we face great challenges and temptations, we are not alone. The presence and intervention of angels, like Michael, assure us of constant divine protection. Michael's victory encourages us to trust in God's sovereignty, knowing that divine justice will always prevail. Michael's humility, invoking God's authority instead of relying on his own strength, teaches us to depend more on God in our daily battles. It is a call to recognize that our true spiritual strength comes from our relationship with God and submission to His will. These confrontations also emphasize the importance of valuing and protecting our spiritual legacy. Just as Michael defended Moses' honor, we are called to live according to divine principles and teachings, ensuring that faith and truth are passed on intact to future generations. In our own lives, we should find inspiration in Michael's courage and determination. He exemplifies how to face battles with faith and resilience, always trusting that God will give us the strength to overcome any adversity. As a community of faith, we are called to support each other, strengthening one another in the fight against the forces of evil. The confrontations between the Archangel Michael and Satan are more than historical events. They are powerful reminders of the ongoing spiritual battle we all face. They call us to live with faith, courage, and dependence on God, confident that with divine help, we can triumph over any challenge. Like Michael, may we be defenders of justice and truth, always steadfast in our spiritual journey and our relationship with God. If this video touched your heart and inspired you, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your interaction is very important to us and helps us continue bringing uplifting content. And don't forget to leave your testimony in the comments. We want to know how God has been working in your life and how these messages have inspired you. Now, I want to extend a very special invitation. If you have not yet accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior, know that He is waiting for you with open arms. Jesus came into the world to save us, to give us abundant life, and to reconcile us with God. He loves you deeply and wants to walk beside you, guiding your steps, comforting your heart, and bringing peace and purpose to your life. If you feel the desire in your heart to surrender to Jesus, do it today. There is no better time than now to open your heart and accept Christ's love and grace. Tell Him that you accept Him as your Savior, that you trust Him, and desire to follow Him. Jesus will transform your life in ways you never imagined. Finally, I want to emphasize God's immense love for you. God has a wonderful plan for your life, a plan of hope and a future. In Jeremiah 29 verse 11, we read, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." God created you with a unique purpose and desires for you to experience the fullness of His joy and love. Thank you for watching. May God richly bless your life, and may you feel His presence in every step of your journey. See you in the next video.